So here is my EU referendum ballot paper. There's some information I suppose I'm not supposed to be sharing, my unique voting, but I'm happy to share how I vote and my code. I think this code should be something that I can check online so that I know that this hasn't been cheated. Or rather, if I didn't vote, I can check that number doesn't get a record, because otherwise they can easily just rig the ballot. Anyway, do I A, remain as a member of the European Union, or B, leave the European Union? Now, if I leave the European Union, that means that potentially I could have, or we might be able to control the people coming from Romania and stealing our jobs and suppressing the labour rates. But at the same time, people working in Romania would have to have the protections of the EU's standards for employment rights and welfare, etc. So which means they can't have a export industry importing to us that undercuts the wages that way. So that cancels each other out. The wages of people coming here to try and find work versus the wages of people who can be exploited. Both of them suppress labour wages. Then we've got free movement. Awesome. Who doesn't like moving around freely, visiting family, blah, 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 blah. Then there is the unelected people telling us what to do. Well, I didn't vote for the Tories. In fact, I think 25% of people actually voted for the Tories. They did cheated on their expenses scandals, and which is struggling to go through the courts properly. It's very easy to rig the ballot anyway, because if I didn't vote, and I never voted every day for every election for 10 years, this code here, any Tom, Dick or Sally has got a list of the people behind the elections know these codes, and they know that they've got the ability to find out that I don't normally vote, don't find out how I voted, but they have a registration of who didn't bother to vote, and they can just put a load of crosses in all of those I don't voters and stuff it in the ballot boxes. And there's only a couple of cronies in charge of that box. You're not allowed to film it. You're not allowed to film the people coming and going. So there's no way of basically checking unless somebody who actually didn't vote then makes a request to check that it has a reason to believe that their vote was cast fraudulently. And but what we've got to, I've not gone through that process of checking, but yeah, it's very easy to rig, assuming that people who didn't cast their ballots don't bother to check, and if they would be able to get round to checking. Let's ask that question, shall we? If that code, if I haven't voted for 10 years, or my nan hasn't voted for 10 years, how can she find out to make sure that that code, her code, hasn't been voted for her? Right, so anyway, I think there is no way of doing so. Nobody ever does, so it's very easy for them to rig the election. So far we've got, I didn't vote for my parliament anyway, and they are the people running me. They are historically trying to block most of the things that pull up wages, which is workers' rights, freedom of the press, freedom to unionize, freedom of religion, human rights. So they are the things that drive wages up, since we've already acknowledged that salaries of people coming into the country might suppress wages locally, but that's also in competitions with the salaries of people, or rather the incredibly low slave labour salaries of people who be working inside Europe potentially, or near to Europe, with less transport of goods costs, but those wages will be effectively per hour much less, because they'll be working 70-hour weeks, and they will not be having, those companies will not have to pay taxes at the same rate in relation to supplying the needs of a welfare state or healthcare, police, for example. So, since the wages are the same, we get to move around willy-nilly. We get to pull up standards. We get the same level of "I didn't vote for you anyway" going on. I think the EU elections aren't first past the post. There is an element of proportional representation, so that's good as well. That's why you get more green MEPs, because it's proportional representation. We really need to have single transferable vote if we actually have a fair voting system. And of course we need to have voter consumer rights, so that you actually have half an idea what's being passed. I gather Sadiq Khan immediately went and then didn't do his first promise with the fixing of the railway ticket prices. He fixed it for just 2 minor groups. So yeah, broken promise straight away, straight off the cuff. How can you vote or you have an election when the people that you're voting for literally lie routinely, regularly? So we need to have a little bit of voting consumer rights. But anyway, so there's one reason why I really, 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 you know, everything's really stacking up for me for Remain. Apart from if we Remain, there's a chance that my French mother-in-law might come and live with me one day. So I'm going to go no. Not really. I'm in.